Herbie, what did you think of the movie? You heard it here first, folks. The movie is fun. No, I'm just kidding. It's fantastic. Matt Shackman's Fantastic Four is set in an alternate universe than our mainline MCU. It's set in a beautiful, retro-futuristic 1960s alternate universe where the technology is so far advanced but also very old and 1960s feeling. Herbie uses old cassette tapes for part of his programming. The way the world was set up was immersive and deep. You could not ask for a better Fantastic Four movie than this. This story has so much great in it that I want to start off with the bad and get it out of the way. First off, there is a few moments, especially in the outer space sequence, where there are very tense moments and emotional moments that are undercut by these MCU style jokes that really take the air out of the scene. It only happens in this one sequence. It happens twice or three times in this outer space journey, but it's a real Achilles heel for those scenes. Separate of that though, it doesn't seem to pop up more throughout. It's just in that one sequence, thankfully. And then two, there's an emotional moment with Julia Garner's Silver Surfer that did not feel earned at all to me. They did a little bit to tee it up, but she makes this really big decision that felt like it was unearned, or at least it wasn't built up to enough. It wasn't totally out of the blue, but it wasn't built up enough to give you that payoff they were clearly going for. And third, there's a thing Reed Richards does, kind of a spoiler, not really because it's in the trailer, but he announces to the world Galactus wanted their baby in exchange for Earth's survival. And it feels like something that very much only happens for the plot, for the movie to move forward. It doesn't feel like something his character would do in the moment. Aside from those three things, it was a pretty perfect movie. Pedro Pascal is great as Reed Richards. He's not the Reed Richards that I imagine in my head when I'm reading the comics, but he pulls off what he's going for very well. He does fantastic in the role. There's emotion behind it. There's depth. It works great. He does a fantastic job here. Vanessa Kirby's Sue Storm is somewhat of the linchpin for our entire story, and she does a great job. She stole the show. There's certain things you think in a comic book movie, a woman, especially a pregnant one, that she might get held back from doing, but nothing stops her from being a hero and being a real leader of this team. Reed Richards is the leader of the Fantastic Four, but none of it works without Sue Storm, without Vanessa Kirby's performance here. She carries a lot of the movie on her back. Joseph Quinn's Johnny Storm is a casting I had real doubts about going into this. I didn't think he was a good fit for the role. I didn't think he would work well, but he totally pulls it off. He feels like that Johnny Storm from the comics. He very much is the little brother of the entire group. He's not just Sue's little brother, he's the Fantastic Four's little brother. And he has some growth throughout the movie. He makes some decisions that were honestly kind of impressive to me. No spoilers, but he has a moment towards the end where I was sitting there with my jaw wide open with bated breath, just absolutely on the edge of my seat. What's about to happen? Is he really going to do this type deal? Ebon Moss-Baric as Ben Grimm does a great job. He brings a little bit of his performance from the bear into this movie. Not a lot, but just in some scenes early on where he's helping Herbie out with cooking the family meal, and a moment later on when he's talking about some cookies. It gave me a bit of callback to the bear without just doing that again. It was still a whole different performance. There's a lot more kindness in the performance here. Ben Grimm has a big heart, and you can see it on screen. From his interactions with the kids in the movie to him strolling his old neighborhood as this new superhero, as the Thing. We get a little bit of the sadness he has from losing his old life, his old face, his old body to become the Thing, but it's not a central part of his character arc here. He doesn't have as much of an arc as the other characters do, but he does have enough to do, enough impact to make, and he doesn't need an arc so much because he feels more complete already than every other member of his group of the Fantastic Four, in that who he is very evident up front. He is this kind soul who wants to help and protect people and doesn't need that same character development, that same arc as some of the other characters in this movie do. He has a little romance in here with Natasha Lyonne's character, whose name I did not catch, and it worked well for what it was. It was a very small part of the movie, a small part of his story, but it gave a little extra depth to his performance, an extra depth to his character. Paul Walter Hauser was really enjoyable as Mole Man. He didn't have the most to do in this movie. He's very much an ancillary character, but when he was on screen, I enjoyed it. If there's ever a guy, you look at him and you go, oh, his name's Mole Man, yeah, that checks out. Not as a shot to him as an actor or a person, but as a praise to how he becomes the character in this movie in the little bit of dialogue he's given. The CGI in this movie was so impressive. It was fantastic. Sorry, can't stop saying it. But it was just next level. I can't think off the top of my head of a Marvel project in recent years, or maybe ever, where the CGI is this consistently amazing throughout the entire thing. There was one slight little moment where I was like, oh, that's not perfect. But even then, it was like a fraction of a second where it was like, oh, that's not quite perfect. But everything else was just amazing. I was blown away at how wonderful the CGI was. Not just in our fight scenes, which, let me tell you, those fight scenes were something special, but in the whole world, in the background, in the retro futuristic aesthetic of this New York City, the CGI played a big role, and it was flawless for the most part. Not to be hyperbolic, but it was Avatar-esque in just how immersive and great it was. Obviously, nothing comes close to Avatar as far as being the peak of CGI in movies, but it was so good. I was just so impressed. As far as the structure of the story and the pacing of the movie, there was no moment or no second where it felt like it was lagging. There was nothing in here that I thought, oh, that doesn't need to be in here. Everything was necessary. Honestly, I think it could have been a touch longer, especially a few more scenes, or at least an extended scene, giving us some more on Silver Surfer, because she was, of all the characters, the most underworked, despite a great performance from Julia Garner. One little nitpick was her makeup seemed a little funky on top of the Silver Surfer skin, polymer, whatever you want to call it, but that's such a minor gripe. This whole film was a love letter to Jack Kirby and his contributions to the comic book world. It was so refreshing. This movie was a blast. I can't wait to go see it again and come back with a spoiler-filled review to give y'all more context. But all in all, this movie was fantastic, strong 9 out of 10. That is my fresh out of the theater reaction. But I have to say, right now for me, it's sitting around a 9. It's not a perfect movie, but damn, is it close. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, leave a like, leave a comment telling me how right or wrong I am. Tell me what you thought of the movie. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Have a great one.